In Badlands National Park, they call it the saber-toothed camel giraffe. Sometimes other people have called it the slingshot beasts or the slingshot camels. Whatever you call them, there is no common name for these strange animals called protoceratids. They came in lots of different shapes and sizes and range all the way from about 45 million years ago till they last vanished about 5 million years ago. They first came to the notice of science when Yale paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh described a strange animal that came from the big badlands of South Dakota. He called it protocerus, meaning first horn in Greek. It had pairs of horns over its eyes and nose and giant tusks on its upper jaws. Protocerus came from the uppermost levels of the big badlands of South Dakota, which became known as the protocerous sandstones or protocerous beds in their honor. It was not a particularly common animal, but it was very distinctive. It was about the size of a sheep, but with a long, slender build, and had very distinctive features not only in its skull, but also in its limbs, where it still had 4 toes on its front and hind feet. Some male skulls of protocerus are quite spectacular with the horns in their noses and over their eyes, and tusk-like canines in front. There are also female skulls with no horns or tusks at all. However, the earliest genera of protoceratids, from about 46 to 40 million years ago, have no evidence of horns or tusks. These include the genera Leptotragulus, Leptoridon, Poabromylus, Tauromeryx, and Heteromeryx. However, many of these genera, like this Leptotragulus, are really known for only jaws and partial skulls. They all have the distinctive low-crowned teeth that protoceratids all have, like this Heteromeryx. Around 37 to 34 million years ago, these primitive genera were replaced by genera like Trigenicus and this Pseudoprotocerus. Pseudoprotocerus is known from complete skeletons and partial skulls, but again they do not have horns or fangs. Pseudoprotocerus vanished around 34 million years ago, replaced by Protocerus around 30 million years ago, but around 15 million years ago we get a strange beast called Paratocerus. Paratocerus had its horns above its eye sockets curved inwards, and on the back of its skull a strange horn with 2 branching blades. The blades of the back horn remind me of the little beanies they used to have with propellers on top of them. Yet another branch of the protoceratids have Y-shaped or slingshot-shaped horns on their faces. Syndioceras, from beds around 21 million years ago, had a pair of Y-shaped horns over its nose and a wicked pair of horns curving upward and inward above its eye sockets. It was not a very large animal, again about the size of a sheep, but with very long legs. Syndioceras was a typical animal of the earliest Miocene in North America, the same age as the agate fossil beds in Nebraska, although it was relatively rare compared to most agate mammals. It is known only from one good complete skull and several partial skeletons. Instead of having a fused metapodial or cannon bone like most ruminants have, its middle digits were still unfused. Around 15 million years ago, Syndioceras was replaced by Lambdoceras, and then by Prosynthotocerus, which was a creature that had a pair of horns on its nose and also over its eye sockets. However, Prosynthotocerus had big, broad, spread-out horns that did not meet at the base to form a stalk. Its descendant is Synthotocerus, the best known of all these animals, which has fused the nose horn into a single long stalk with a pair of branches at the tip, resembling a slingshot. This animal is famous from specimens found in Nebraska and Texas around 5 million years ago and known from multiple good skulls. Although it was about the size of an antelope, it had a much longer head and still had not fused up the bones in the wrist and ankle, which are the cannon bones of true ruminants. It is most famous from the beds from about 5 to 8 million years ago in the western United States, sharing the North American savanna ecosystem with horses, camels, pronghorns, and many other ruminants. Finally, in 1991, a surprising specimen was found in Florida named Kyptocerus amatorum by my good friend David Webb. A close relative of Syndioceras, it is the last of the protoceratids from about 5 million years ago. Its horns point forward, both on its nose and over its eye sockets. Thus, it has a very distinctive set of horns compared to Synthetoceras. Kyptoceras is only known from Florida, Paratoceras only from the Gulf Coast, and it's often thought that protoceratids were more like moose, living in swampy, wet habitats with their broad snouts adapted to eating soft vegetation, and their broad feet able to walk in soft, marshy terrain. When Kyptoceras vanishes, around 4.5 million years ago, the protoceratidae become extinct. But what were protoceratids related to? Traditionally, they've been put in the Tylopoda close to the camels, because they do have similarities to the camels in their neck vertebrae and in some aspects of their skulls. However, their teeth suggest they're closer to ruminant. More recent work on their brain case and middle ear region have suggested they're ruminants as well, although now we're not so sure. Whatever protoceratids were related to, they were a distinctive and bizarre and spectacular group of American mammals that roamed this continent for almost 45 million years.